Hi everybody, I'm Dana Scheider, and in this video I'm going to be introducing the sounds of the Italian language with the goal of helping singing students gain some familiarity with the language and its pronunciation. Italian has roughly 31 sounds, all of which I'll cover in this video series. For you linguists out there, this count includes allophones and does not include diphthongs. I'm going to be using the International Phonetic Alphabet, or IPA, a lot in this video, so if you're not familiar with the IPA, I recommend you watch my intro to the IPA video before watching this one. Before delving into Italian pronunciation, I'd like to emphasize again that IPA symbols, unlike letters, stand for one and only one sound. So when you're watching this video, pay careful attention to what sound I present with each symbol, since it may not be the sound you would intuitively associate with that symbol, particularly when the symbol looks like a letter in the Roman alphabet. In this video, I'm only going to talk about sounds. I'll talk about spelling next time. Finally, I want to add that there are as many opinions about proper diction as there are singers, coaches, and critics. My goal in this video is not to describe every nuance of the Italian language, but to give students a starting point. What you're looking at on the screen here is an Italian vowel diagram. Standard Italian has 7 and only 7 vowel sounds, represented by the IPA symbols on the diagram. I'm going to pronounce these vowels for you, both alone and in the context of the word, so you can kind of see where they fit in with the broader sounds of the language. The three most simple sounds are A, I, and U, as in pane, si, and pure. The other 4 are slightly more complicated because they aren't differentiated in written Italian, so non-Italians often get them confused. In speaking about the language, we differentiate these sounds using the terms open and closed. Here on the screen you see the open E symbol on the left and the closed E symbol on the right. Notice the difference between e, as in medico, and e, as in pena. These sounds often sound similar to English speakers, but they are distinct, somewhat like the difference between let and late in English. Now here on the left you see the open O symbol, and on the right the closed O symbol. Again, these sounds can be difficult for English speakers to tell apart. Open O is pronounced O, as in gloria, while closed O is pronounced O, as in amore. Now, as I discussed in my intro to the IPA video, it's really important to make a distinction between pure vowels, diphthongs, and triphthongs. If those aren't terms you've heard before, you should really watch the earlier video so you can follow what I'm about to say. In Italian, all vowels are pure. English has a lot of diphthongs, so most English speakers will be inclined to turn vowels into diphthongs. Make sure, for example, you're pronouncing E for closed D and not A, with kind of an E on the end. Many sources on Italian diction talk about Italian diphthongs. I feel like that discussion tends to complicate things more than necessary because in most situations, vowels are just pronounced distinctly. Italian is a very vowel-oriented language. Consequently, you'll often have 2, 3, or more vowels right next to each other. When this happens, it's really important not to separate vowels or words with a glottal stop, which is the sound you hear in the middle of the word uh-oh. English speakers tend to put glottal stops before most vowels and between words, especially for emphasis, as in he isn't. Glottal stops don't exist in Italian at all. The Italian language is truly like a melody that flows through different sounds without interrupting itself. Finally, pay close attention to the difference between Italian vowels and English vowels. A is not pronounced ah, e is not pronounced e, etc. Especially with vowels, every language kind of has its own pronunciation system, and that's what makes the foreign accent sound correct, so getting that right is going to be a big step in the right direction. Italian has 24 consonant sounds. Linguists separate these sounds into categories based on where the sound is articulated, where the air comes out, and other factors. All Italian consonants fall into one of 7 groups, which you can see on the screen here. I'm going to discuss each group and present the sounds again using both isolated sounds and words to illustrate. So the first group I'm going to talk about is the plosives. Plosives in Italian include the sounds on the screen, which I'll demonstrate momentarily. Notice how I've separated these into 2 columns, voiced and unvoiced. A voiced consonant is one made with your vocal folds vibrating, and an unvoiced one is made without your vocal folds vibrating. Each sound here on your left is exactly like the one on the right, except that the ones on the left are voiced, and the ones on the right are unvoiced. The plosive sounds in Italian are b as in babbo, p as in porta, d as in diedi, t as in topo, g as in grande, and k as in caro. Notice that whereas English has aspirated plosives, meaning where a lot of air comes through, Italian's consonants are unaspirated, meaning where we would say k, p, t, Italian speakers will say k, p, t. Since in English, unvoiced consonants are more aspirated than voiced ones, English speakers sometimes have trouble telling the difference between voiced and unvoiced versions in Italian, like the difference between cara, deer, and gara, match. Like with plosives, Italian has voiced and unvoiced fricatives. Unlike with plosives, these are pretty easy to tell apart from each other. All of Italian's fricatives also exist in English, so English speakers don't usually have a hard time pronouncing them. The fricative sounds in Italian are f as in febbre, v as in venti, s as in sarcofago, z as in sdegno, and sh as in sciogliere. Do note the IPA symbol for sh, since it's one of those IPA symbols that you'd be unlikely to figure out just from looking at it. In the nasal category, you start to get some sounds English just doesn't have. English shares only 3 of Italian's 5 nasals. With the ones we don't have, I'll go into a little more detail about how to pronounce them. The nasal consonants that are present in both English and Italian are m, as in mare, n, as in nascere, and as in ancora. So those should be pretty straightforward. The last 2 are a little trickier, so I'll try to explain how you can make these sounds. The first one is ny, as in gnocchi. To make this sound, place your tongue as if you were going to make an N sound, then push it very slightly forward and press it into the roof of your mouth before letting go. I'll pronounce that again, ny, as in gnocchi. The 5th Italian nasal is as in invece. This is very subtle, and it only ever comes before a f or a v sound. So what you want to do is put your teeth on your lower lip as if you were going to say v, then without moving them, make kind of a hum. Invece. Okay, so we're at about 8 minutes. You may have noticed that this video is part 1 of 2, and at this point I'm going to leave off and start talking about the rest of the Italian consonant groups in video 2. So please do go ahead and view that, and I'll be happy to finish the talk then. See you soon.